Derek Wheatley, and welcome to episode 163 of the Wheatley podcast. Thank you very much for joining us wherever you are doing so. A very big thank you to Mo Dunford, who came on last week. It was a real honour to chat to Mo because I'm a fan of his films, and I've got to watch some of his TV stuff since he was coming on, and I did explain to him I don't really watch TV, but I do watch a lot of films, and we had a great chat about films and stuff like that, but it kind of went a bit deeper than that, and it was quite a long episode, so I hope you enjoyed it. And if you haven't listened to it, go back and listen to it because it's a good one. You can support us on Buy Me a Coffee, by the way, if you want to. That's just, I'm obliged to say these things. I don't like saying them. Link is in the description. Listen, let's get into this week's episode. So this week our guest is a travel addict and a yoga teacher. I say travel addict, it sounds bad, but we'll understand that as we go. And her name is Ali McMeel. How are you doing, Ali?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you very much. I appreciate you coming on, obviously, as always. And this is my second recording of the day, actually, which is it's kind of not like me to do two in a day, but I think I'm doing all right. I'm holding up well. You'll be the judge of that, Ali. You might have to carry
I'll
me.
let you know at the end.
Yeah, do if you don't mind. But we'll start at the beginning. Could you give us a short history of your upbringing, please?
Yeah, absolutely. So I grew up in North Dublin. So I grew up in the middle of my family. So I have an older sister and I have a twin sister as well, and a younger sister. So I grew up with both my parents. And I had a really happy childhood. There's nothing I can remember. Like I just have positive memories. And my parents were like both so loving, and we had such lovely memories. We always did things together as a family. Like we had such a nice little family unit. So my parents owned a family pharmacy. So I grew up in the family business. So I guess that's a huge part of my childhood as well. Um, and yeah, we just had really nice memories. I went to the local school and made lovely friends kind of around the age of like transition years, so kind of
Mhm.
teenage area. And yeah, I guess just like I'm really close to my sisters. We used to play like traditional Irish music together with my dad. And yeah, I guess just like growing up, it was just a lovely time. And then I went to college in Dublin, and I'm based there ever since.
Do you still play a bit of Irish music, or is that gone kind of?
Um, to be honest, I actually don't. It's like a
Yeah,
core memory I have that was with my dad. And I'd say we'll get into that, but he
yeah.
passed away when I was 17.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And to be honest, yeah, no, it's okay. To be honest, I just haven't ever gone back to it. It's something that I'd love to do in the future. I have like really nice memories of it, and I still love listening to Irish music. But yeah, it's a goal of mine in the future to get back into it because it is so lovely and it's such like a huge part of our culture. And I'm like, I love Ireland. I love our culture. So hopefully one day I'll get back into this.
Yeah, and what I've noticed about it, I've talked to some people on here, and like I would admittedly say I wasn't into Irish music, but when you realize the kind of obviously the tradition, but the communal aspect that it has and it brings, I've kind of come on to kind of appreciate it a little bit more. And it's not like I dismissed the skills or any of that stuff. It just wasn't my kind of genre. But it's a lot more when you're talking about traditional music, I suppose, in any part of the world. It's a lot more than just the songs being played. It's the everything around it, I suppose.
Yeah, absolutely. Like we were part of like a local band, I guess you could call us. And like I started playing the fiddle when I was like four. So I have pictures of myself in like mom and dad's bed of me holding the fiddle when I was four. And so it was a huge part of us, like it was a huge part of our upbringing. And like as you said, it just brings a community of people together. And just such a lovely kind of we used to play on a Sunday afternoon. It was just kind of it was a lovely kind of family kind of spirit, kind of just yeah, just a really nice way of bringing people together.
Beautiful. Can you tell us when you first became aware of mental health?
Like I don't really remember. I remember when I was in school and we were in like a CSP class and we had basically these like kind of talks that would kind of bring us like to the outside world, not just kind of in school. And I remember specifically watching a video, and it was basically about a true story of someone who had lost their family member to suicide. And I remember that was kind of when like you kind of obviously hear about like you hear the word depression kind of being dropped and like a lot. But I think that was when it really kind of hit home. I remember watching that video and like obviously it was really emotional and the whole class was kind of a little bit shocked by it. But I remember just it really hit home with me and I was like, oh my God, like I didn't really realize the full extent of it. But I guess like when I look back now, it's because like I had never really processed that my dad had battled with depression his whole
Mhm.
life. So I guess like that was a real realization to me that like this is such a real thing. And I guess it was probably a huge part of me just not wanting to believe that it was
Mhm.
happening in my own house. But I think that was a real pinpoint moment to when I was like to when I really understood mental health. And then just kind of going on throughout the year, just like seeing the effect that depression had on my dad was a real kind of pinpoint moment to me. But I think the first moment, like as I said, I think it's getting better in the
Mhm.
last few years and like as time goes on. But I think depression, like when I was a teenager, was kind of dropped a lot without meaning. Like it was like, oh, I feel so depressed, or like, oh, that's so depressing, and it wouldn't really have a huge meaning of behind it. Like it would nearly be a joke, kind of like the
Mhm.
memes you see on like Facebook and stuff. But I think when I watched that video, it was a real kind of moment for me when I was like, oh, as I said, like this is going on in my own house.
And that's what's amazing about, some of the answers we get, and from people who are younger than me or who are in school, maybe in the last 10 years or so, that there is a kind of introduction of speaking about mental health. And obviously it made an impact on you seeing the video and how important that is. And I was just talking about it today, about that idea that, sometimes that word is thrown around, and we mix up depression and sadness, and we mix up anxiety and nerves. It's, they're separate things, but it's great to hear that like it is becoming more prevalent in schools, and younger people are kind of getting more grips on it. So I think that's so important. I need to ask then. So when we're talking about travel, where and when was your first time outside of Ireland?
Oh, I don't know exactly when, but we would have traveled with my parents when I was small. I think it was to Spain anyway. We
Hmm.
used to go to Spain quite a lot, in Portugal and Lanzarote. And I just have like I think that's probably where my travel kind of addiction, I guess, started, was just because I have nothing but good memories. Like my parents worked like so hard all the time with their family business, that when we went away, it was a complete kind of like downtime, time to spend together as a family, time to kind of try new things. And we all love the ocean. So it was just such a nice way to kind of enjoy that. So I guess that's when, yeah, when I started traveling was with my parents, as a family holiday.
So that's like it's one thing, and I know it's one thing traveling with your parents, and like a lot of people from Ireland, teenagers or late teens, I suppose, their first trip is away with a group of girls, a group of lads, to, I don't know. I'm not up with these things, but you know what I mean? Like maybe Tenerife, maybe things like that. Did you have one of those experiences, or did you go somewhere else on your first time away without your parents?
Yeah, so I would have went to Thailand with my twin sister and my cousin and one of my best friends as well. And that to me was like that was one of the first times I was like properly, as you say, away without my parents. And it was just like obviously Thailand and Ireland are completely different cultures,
Yeah.
completely different experiences. And it was just such an amazing trip. Like I just kind of saw the world in a way that just wasn't just like a little bubble. And it was just incredible. Like I just remember feeling like so inspired by what I saw there, just like experiencing the culture, and just seeing new places. It was just, I think that was one of the times where I was like, okay, I'm obsessed. I want to go again.
Yeah, well, that's
Um,
that's kind of I find that kind of amazing. Obviously, not amazing that someone would go somewhere and think, "Oh, this is brilliant," but more the amazing idea of like, how do you? I remember in old films, right? I always go back to films, but they spin a globe and they put their finger on the place where where their finger lands. That's where they're going next. Like, how do you? Because I've seen some of the places you've been to. Like, how do you decide? Have you got a wish list, or is it something different like that?
Oh, my bucket list is literally everlasting. I could just never stop. To be honest, I love going to like I love city breaks, but I also just love going places that aren't really as well kind of traveled. Like last year, I did a lot of Central and South America, and
Mhm.
that to me was just incredible. It was completely new experience. Every country in Central America was so different, and it was just so freeing. It was just, as I said, I just saw like the world in different light, every country that I went to. And like say we're in El Salvador and it's still one of the poorest countries in the world, but like the locals were just one of the friendliest people I've ever met. And like again, it was just really kind of eye-opening just to see like how welcoming they were to tourists, and there's just such a sense of like freedom that you get when you're traveling. And I think that's why I love it for my mental health, because I just get like a bit of a new lease of life, and I kind of just get to, yeah, just kind of be myself as well. Because I guess like when I was growing up, I was super shy, kind of like was super paranoid, and like always cared about what people thought about
Mhm.
me. But I guess when you're traveling, you don't know anybody, so that doesn't really matter. So I think that's, yeah, I guess just how I choose a country. I'm really not sure. It's kind of just where I kind of feel my heart takes me at the time. And just trying to go to new countries. I love experiencing new countries as much as I love visiting places that I know I love and I'm comfortable. I love just trying new countries as well.
Yeah, like because that's what I was kind of wondering about your character and people who do love traveling. Because for me, when if I was just pick with I saw that you were in Colombia, so we'll pick Colombia as an example. All right, so um, if someone said to me like you're going to Colombia tomorrow and you put me down in the middle of Bogota, how do I pronounce that correctly?
Bogota. It's like,
Way better, way.
I think I still butchered that, to be honest.
No, but it sounded better. Whether it's right or wrong, it sounded better. But I do think
Okay.
that if you put me down the middle of that, like I think this is obviously myself, and anxiety comes into play here. But all of a sudden, everything's kind of all kind of, I guess, the minute control I have of my life is taken away, and I put into a place, and it's not even so much about the language and stuff, but it's about not knowing anything of the place. I do feel I get kind of frazzled with it. I think, it kind of becomes overwhelming. And sometimes you see travel programs and people are in the middle of a busy street and just cars going by and everything. And that to me is just like, I can't quite handle it. But for you, obviously, that's something that is good for your mental health and quite comforting, I suppose, in a way.
Yeah, like and it's strange because like I used to get really unsettled if I was in a situation where I wasn't comfortable. But now traveling to a new place where like I wouldn't just like kind of allow myself in a place. I do like do my research and kind
Mhm.
of figure out like little tips and tricks and places not to go. Like I'm always quite aware of really, really dodgy areas. But being in a new place, like when I travel, I love to have kind of a fair idea of what I'm doing, but I also love the thrill of like not really knowing what I'm doing the next day, or like yeah, just kind of like experiencing new places, or like hearing about something else that like I didn't really know about. I love that. Like it makes me excited, and I'm like, yeah, I don't know, it just lights up in me. I just love it. But at the same time, I completely understand where you're coming from.
Mhm.
Like that's why I guess that's a huge reason why I started my Instagram page and my blog, is because like I know that there's so many people out there like yourself, Derek, that being in a new place would be so nerve-wracking and would just put people completely on the edge. And it's so understandable. Like you're in a new place and you don't know the surroundings, you don't know the people there, and it's really nerve-wracking. And I guess that's why I've started making the little mini guides, just kind
Mhm.
of creating like just something there for people to be able to say, okay, if I go there, I know that this restaurant is nice. So that takes
Yeah.
one little stress away from me, or I know how to get from A to B. So yeah, I guess just like for me, I absolutely love it, and it's so exciting for me, but I completely understand at the same time it's terrifying for other people.
Yeah, like we were just talking about this before, like I hit record, and when so I'm traveling. Not many people know, but I guess they will now. But I'm traveling to Malaga next month. Like I said to you, for like a kind of CrossFit endurance race thing, and what I'm doing at the moment is right. So I kind of created this bubble. Okay, so at the moment, all I'm thinking about is the actual event. The little parts. I have to run this bit and lift this bit, all that, blah blah blah. Right. So, but what I didn't want to do was tell. There's 16 or 17 people going. I didn't want to tell everybody else. I told my coach and a couple others, but because what happens to me is I get overwhelmed with everybody coming over, and it's just their excitement. It's not anything, they're not doing anything bad for any reasons. It's just they're excited, and fair play to them. They do like include everyone and make it a kind of a big kind of family thing. But what happens to me is the more I think about all the aspects that are outside of my control, like being in a foreign country, airports, which I haven't been to. I think I said to you like 2007, around then. Um, and a lot of this is an extension of a really bad time I had in America, and especially in Miami, where I didn't know what I was going through, but I was going through some like really bad anxiety, but at the time I wasn't aware. So um, I try to kind of push away all of the outside noise, but it's very difficult as it is approaches, as you can imagine. And I'm trying to not like overthink the airport, not over. It's not that people think I'm afraid of the flying. It really isn't that. It's
Yeah.
everything around it. So when you're going to somewhere, Central America, South America, wherever it might be, what is the like? Because people hate airports for the most part. People hate airports. Like,
Mhm.
what do you like? What do you like airports, or is that just we just get through this bit to get to the good bit?
Like airports are stressful. Like they're
Mhm.
always going to be stressful. Even like you could be calm and you'll just see one person darting past you and you'll be like, oh my God, now I'm late. Like they're just stressful. All the announcements, it's so noisy. Airports are chaotic. Like
Yeah.
there's very few airports. Like Kerry Airport is probably the only airport that I'm in. It's like it's calm. But I think I've just got so used to them as well. And I think I just know my limits when it comes to situations like that because
Mhm.
I do find myself in situations where there's a lot of people there and it's just a bit chaotic and it just makes me feel anxious. So I just kind of know my limits. Like I know that like being late freaks me out. So I just arrive as soon as I can. So it's just pre-planning for me as well. Like I always bring my AirPods, even just like
Mhm.
putting in my AirPods and just not listening to the chaos around me, knowing my gate, knowing where I'm going to. Like there's been times in airports I've been stressed and I'll just stick in my AirPods and listen to meditation and just kind of try to switch off. Because they are chaotic. They're like the start of a trip. And also it like airports airport stress is normally at the start of a trip. And it's like you're thinking all about what's going to happen on that trip. You're thinking about like the minute you get there, you're thinking about the actual flight itself. You're thinking about what you're going to do when you get there. So they are stressful. I would definitely just say just kind of control the controllables, like if you can get there early as you can,
Mhm.
but like it's also about kind of accepting that like some things are out of your control, like you know, delayed flights and stuff like
Mhm.
that. Just kind of prepare yourself for that. And yeah, just kind of do whatever you can to put yourself at ease. Like literally if it's something as small as like I love tea. So if getting a cup of tea and having chocolate there beside me makes me feel better, I'm gonna do that.
Yeah.
And yeah, I guess it's just figuring out what kind of makes you feel a little bit more calm in yourself, what will calm your nerves, and then just try to control those really.
It's funny because I was thinking about these things about calming the nerves and kind of keeping some level of control that I could. And I thought long and hard about the idea of right, what would I be better? What would I prefer? Going with a couple of the lads who were going and getting the seat next to them, or going completely on my own. And I was wondering, like,
Mhm.
because I think that it's interesting you talk about trying to get the things that you can get into control, get them under control. And I thought, like, if I go on my own, I will be able to do that easier because you don't think like one of the lads is always like, he's just very relaxed. He takes everything easy. And I'm like, look at the time. Come on, if I was on my own, I would definitely be like easier to do that, look after the time and look after myself. But the problems would be, what if I did get into a bit of you know, get a bit stressful? Like you said, you look around, like it's in airports, like stress is like transferable. It moves amongst the people, and like that was a great example of like someone just running along would trigger me to start panicking of have I got everything. So I decided to go with with the two lads because I thought, right, they're going to be a headache, but at the same time, at least I can have someone to kind of talk to if I am struggling, and that's kind of what I've gone with. Do you would you travel alone to somewhere that was kind of far afield?
Like honestly, I haven't done an awful lot of solo traveling.
Mhm.
Like I did my first kind of like solo trip last November, and I went to Lithuania. But normally I would always like I've just normally had someone there to travel with. So
Mhm.
like I think it is a big thing as well. Like if you surround yourself with someone that you're comfortable with that also knows your triggers as well.
Yeah.
Like I travel a lot with say my boyfriend and he knows my triggers. I know what makes him stressed. Or my best friends as well. My sister is like, I think it's having someone there that knows like even the smallest little thing, like if I suddenly think that I'm late, that will make me stressed. So they
Yeah.
know to kind of like try to help me feel a bit relaxed there. So I haven't done a lot of solo traveling. There's something extremely empowering about it, but there's something very daunting about it as well.
Mhm.
It's scary. But I think it is best, like if you are anxious about traveling, I think it is good to travel with someone that you're
Yeah.
comfortable around. Because they like a lot of the time they'll know you sometimes better than you know yourself, and they'll kind of find ways to kind of help you kind of just enjoy the trip a bit more. But I think airport stress is just so normal as well.
Yeah.
Like I remember doing a post about it recently, and like I just said it was like how to calm your kind of pre-travel nerves. And people who I know that have traveled literally around the whole world were commenting on it or replying to me being like, I still get like pre-travel nerves. Like it's so normal. Like you're going out of your comfort zone. You're like, as we're talking about now, airports even make people stressed. But yeah, I think traveling with someone, or I think you've made a right
Mhm.
decision there. Like traveling with people is comforting. Like I went to Uganda during the summer, and I was traveling with, and we were meeting a group, but I was with two of my friends. And like our connecting flight got delayed, so of course that meant we were going to miss, say, our
Mhm.
actual flight from Istanbul to Uganda. And like I remember like it was so stressful. Like we were like I was darting through the airport trying to get to the next flight. I remember we were all kind of talking about it afterwards, and we're like, God, that would have been so much more stressful if you were by yourself, because like
Yeah.
we're kind of saying, okay, at least we missed that flight. We were together. We had a joke about it, but yeah, it's always nice to have someone there. But at the same time, solo traveling, like honestly, it's just so empowering.
Yeah.
I did it for the first time last November, and it was just it gave me so much confidence. And I'd love to do it again. I think it's amazing.
Yeah. And like, I think pick which is what you were talking about there, that idea, if there is like difficulties in the airport and stuff, it'll become a lot easier with other people. But I decided then on the other side to, like, they're all, staying in a big villa, and I decided to get a room on my own in a hotel. And for the simple fact, because I'm not a drinker and I go to bed at like 9:30, and, I just, and they like go out to Malaga, enjoy themselves. But the fact that, I suppose the fact that it helps that I have this podcast, that people know the story, that they just leave me be. Like, so it's just not going to
Yeah.
be a big issue. Like, oh, come on, you dry shite. You know what I mean? Like, it's not going to be any of that stuff. It's literally going to be like, let them off and sleep and stuff. But Ali, if you don't mind, I'm just going to squeeze an advert in here, and we'll get back into it. Is that all right?
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
I was going to do, actually earlier on, I was going to do this. Like, it would have been the first time I ever did it without reading off the script. And I was going to do it because Mo was on, an actor, and I bottled it. And I actually think I forgot to do the ad. So I thought I better do it now.
Sure, look.
All right. Yeah, exactly. But I'm going to read it this time. The confidence is gone from earlier on. Fusion Training Center, Monksland Athlone, a place to train in Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, kickboxing, martial arts, and CrossFit. A great atmosphere with experienced coaches and a real sense of community. If you want to join the team, find us on Facebook at Fusion Training Center or drop in for a chat. Fusion Training Center, train like a warrior. I think I kind of sped through that, but it's okay.
Yeah.
So when I was looking at some of your Instagram posts and things like that, and what I found very interesting about it, you talked about, budget traveling, because I think that's, we're in March now. We're talking, people are going to maybe getting ready for the summer and stuff like that. And the ideal scenario would be someone to go over and get this luxurious hotel room and do all the other stuff like that. But it's not there for everyone. I'm using as an example when you talked about like staying in a why can't I remember the word? When you're staying in a room with loads of different people, what's that called?
Oh, shared dorm, is it?
Yeah, but what's
Hostel.
yeah. So say if, like, do you, because I did that in Miami, and there was, no, to be fair, there was like seven in an 8 room, so there was only one other guy, and say he felt much more uncomfortable than we did. But do you mind that? Like,
Like I actually don't.
right.
It's definitely not for everyone. And like to be honest, if I had my way, I definitely wouldn't be staying in shared dorms all the
Yeah.
time, because like some of them are just not ideal. Like they're noisy. If you're in a hot country, they can be really hot.
Mhm.
You barely get sleep some of the time. But to be honest, as I said, like I just love traveling. So if that's what I need to do to be able
Mhm.
to help me to travel a little bit longer, I'll happily do it. Like way more about like experiences over luxury. But like in saying that, like there has been like I wouldn't stay in shared dorms all the time. Like
Yeah.
I think like I find a nice balance where it's like I want to enjoy the holiday as well. And like staying in like an 8 to 10 to 12 bed dorm isn't always going to be fun. So I do try to balance it out, but I don't normally mind it. Like sometimes it's the best way, like if you're solo traveling, to make friends as well, because you often meet like people who are traveling and who are going the same route as you, or like who are also backpacking, or and it could be a nice way to meet someone, but it can like I think again it kind of comes back to just knowing yourself. And so like a lot of the times if you stay in shared dorms, you won't get sleep. And like I know for a fact that like if I'm really lacking sleep, sometimes that'll kind of trigger like just a lot of like anxiety in myself.
Mhm.
So I just know to kind of balance that out and just stay in private dorms when I can kind of make it work. Um, but yeah, I think the reason why I do it a lot is just, as I said, to just make my money go further and so I can see more of the world. And like I think I talk about it a lot on my Instagram as well, because I've a huge like a lot of the people who I connect with on Instagram and who follow my page are people like who want to travel but are on a budget. And I
Mhm.
just basically want to show that it is possible to travel. Sometimes it just kind of means not staying in like a really nice 5-star hotel or like not a really luxurious Airbnb, but like I think again, I know I said this, but it's just about finding balance. Like
Yeah.
if staying in a 12-bed dorm is terrifying for some people and like that's totally understandable. Just I just wouldn't recommend doing it then if it nearly like ruins your holiday or makes you super anxious as well. And like a lot of the time, like it's like some people would just the idea of staying in a room with like a mixed dorm as well. So some hostels have like private kind of female dorms and
Mhm.
like a lot of them are mixed and that can make a lot of people feel really uncomfortable as well. So I guess it's just about just asking yourself are you comfortable with it or not and trying it. And if it's not for you, it's not for you. So yeah, I guess I don't mind it, but yeah, it's not the best all the time, really.
Yeah, and like, but that's what I liked about the posts, that you put up about it, because it's you yourself had put on the post reality versus,
Oh
Instagram, and
yeah.
that's important as well, because I think I think you can come across pages on Instagram, or even podcasts and stuff, and it's very easy to portray the kind of, oh look, it's I'm staying at this beautiful hotel, and everything's rosy, and like, nothing's tough, and everything's handed to me, and things like that, and that's for some people that's great, because that's what they can do, and that's what they can afford. But it's not. There's no point in you know uh, putting it out there if it's not true. And it's like your
Mhm.
point of saying, I will sacrifice, certain things just so I can travel, is it's more important. And if people are really into travel, um, they'll know what you're talking about, because they've had to go through, or put up with certain things, or sacrifice certain things that they may not want to, just to do it. And that's what's great, I guess, about your page, is that it's not just about, I went to this amazing place, stayed in the best place, and that's that.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. Yeah, I think to be honest, I think that's a huge part of what I want to share in the pages because like I think you see a lot of social media posts that like traveling just looks perfect and like you'll see like a lovely beach or like you'll see this perfect reel of like an Airbnb and it like comes out onto the balcony and like
Yeah.
I think I love like social media like I love the fact that I have the Instagram now because I've met so many amazing people on it and I've connected with so many like-minded people but I also think social media is such a dangerous kind of ball game as well where you can just find yourself constantly comparing yourself and like I just never really want to kind of don't want to say part of that problem, but I do think it is a problem,
Hmm.
especially for like the younger generation as well. I just think it's so easy, like if you're having a bad day, to go onto Instagram and see someone who's like out in Bali on the beach and they're like sipping their cocktail and like life just looks perfect. And then you're sitting there being like, oh well, like I've had like an awful day. I think it's just so easy to get into that rut and then it just goes into like this like downward spiral. So I just want to like show that although I do love traveling and I've had amazing experiences, like I've ended up in hospital when I've been away. I've had like 9 hour bus journeys, like sitting on a really uncomfortable chair. Like I've had a bed where there's literally been ants crawling all over.
Mm.
Like it's not as glamorous as it looks. And I just never want to have an Instagram and just portray that it's perfect because it's not. And like I do talk about mental health when you're traveling as well, because I think it's also a huge thing. And there's reels and there's TikToks and everything joking about being like, oh, just getting on a flight fixes all your problems. And like
Yeah,
as much as like I love traveling and it does help my mental health, like getting on a plane and going to a foreign country is not gonna fix your mental health. Like it's really not. Like it may help like and help you kind of give you time to figure things out. But I'm also like a huge kind of I just don't agree with like, I don't think it fixes all your problems. So I want to share that on my social media as well, that although it's amazing, it can also be super hard on your mental health as well.
mm,
Like when you're traveling, there's days where you're literally sitting on a bus for 9 to 12 hours and all you can do is think, like, you're just there with your thoughts. Like there's nothing really else you can do. Obviously you can read a book or listen to podcasts or anything like that, but you are with your thoughts an awful lot of
yeah,
the time. So I think that's something that I like to talk about as well, just for people to be aware that it is
yeah,
a great time to focus on yourself, but it's also, it can be difficult as well. It's not always easy
yeah.
traveling.
100%. And like it, for me, at least for the last time I went, like I mentioned in Miami, it was very destructive. And it has
Yeah.
like knocked me back a long, long time of the very idea of going anywhere else again. And you might, that's the thing about it. Like, I guess at the time, like I mentioned, I didn't know that this was going to happen, or this was how I felt until everything was taken out of, any kind of control and stuff like that. Sorry, I'll throw this down there. Any kind of control that was taken out of my life, and I was put down in the middle of America. It's not like it was first time in America or anything like that, but it was just I was taken out of my comfort zone, really put down, and all of a sudden it was kind of all blown apart. And that's when you realize, God, this I shouldn't have done this. But I guess, I had to do it to see, to get to the other side. And it's all kind of, plotted out in that way. I wanted to ask you as well, because it's something that's kind of come up since COVID and all that stuff. Traveling within our own country
Mhm.
has become more and more, I guess, more and more popular. It is an expensive country. We know that. Like, do you think that traveling in Ireland's kind of underrated? Because we do like to think, oh, we'll go somewhere where the sun is, but it's not always
Yeah.
we do miss a few bits and pieces going away that we have here.
Oh, 100%. Like I've always said that I love Ireland, but I think I'm not gonna lie, I think COVID made me appreciate Ireland even more. Like it has so much to offer. And I only did a post about this recently. I feel like so many people are moving to Australia or Canada lately. And everyone who's, I wouldn't say stuck in Ireland, because we all make our own decisions, like we're all
Mhm.
in Ireland and that's our decision. But I think a lot of people are like kind of forgetting that Ireland is so beautiful. And it's only like, it's also when I've gone traveling, and the minute I say to someone I'm from Ireland, they're literally like, oh my God, it's so beautiful. It's so stunning. Like, have you seen like the cliffs of Moher? Have you seen? And it's actually just, I think it's when it's on our doorstep, we
Mhm.
kind of tend to forget about it. Um, but yeah, I love Ireland. Like literally, I was hiking today in the Wicklow Mountains, and I can just never get sick of it. I was just looking around and being like, this is absolutely stunning, and it's right on our doorstep and we just don't appreciate it. So like I think a lot of the summer, my summer now, I'm gonna spend traveling around Ireland, and I'm so excited for it. Like there's so many hidden gems that we kind of forget
Mhm.
about. Um but yeah, no, there's so much to be said about Ireland. It's so stunning, like.
It really is. And it's funny that because there is so many hidden gems and things that we like, Cliffs of Moher and Bunratty Castle, all those places that we hear all the time. But like, all you have to do is go to your page or go to other people's pages or go and Google, like, the 10 best kept secrets of Ireland, and you find these places and you're kind of going, that you see pictures and you're like, that can't be in Ireland, just these kind of stunning kind of images. And I do think, like, even I notice now, I used to like, well, I still do really like Galway. Like, I think it's a lovely county and all that, and it's not too far from where I am. Like, but even I grew up in Swords in North Dublin, and well, I went to school. I didn't grow up there. I grew up in Athlone, but moved to there.
Mhm.
And I used to hang around in, like, around North County Dublin. And some of the places even there, and people, like, even people will kind of discard Dublin because they think, I have to get deep into the country to see the really nice spots. Like, I have to go down to West Cork and I have to go to these places. But there's places in Dublin, like, along the coast there, that are just unbelievable, really.
Yeah, 100%. And like I grew up by the sea. And whenever I was small, like I don't think I ever really fully appreciated.
Hmm.
And now like then during COVID, so I lived in Limerick for 2 years during COVID, and I wasn't near the sea for months. And like I think that really made me realize just how stunning like areas are in Dublin that again we just don't appreciate. And like even there last week, me and a few friends did a hike out in Carlingford. And like Carlingford wouldn't really be somewhere that is, I wouldn't say well known, it obviously is well
Hmm.
known. It's like a lot of people go there for like stags and hens and stuff like that, but it's such a stunning area. And it's just little places like that that of course, obviously the bigger, like kind of well-known city, like
Yeah.
Galway City and everything's lovely, but it's places like that that are just so beautiful that are literally on our doorstep that we don't appreciate.
Yeah. I went to Carlingford in transition year. And we
Yeah.
went to this, like, it was one of those day things, but I think we stayed overnight in the, like, outside, I think. And I hated that, but that's another thing. It just sounds like I hate everything. I don't, but we went to the lock, obviously, and
Uh-huh.
got on like windsurf and stuff like that. And it's a beautiful space, but even like, Louth isn't, one of the big name counties. So, it doesn't get mentioned, and it is an interesting thing. And I like, that's another thing, actually, because I do want to talk to you about hiking, and that's kind of a perfect lead into it, because I've had people on who've mentioned hiking and stuff, and um, the the views you see when you're hiking is obviously unbelievable. But when you started hiking, what was the kind of appeal? Who kind of got you involved in it?
To be honest, it was kind of myself. Like I've always loved just like the idea of being on the mountains. Like I think mountains are so pretty. And I would have done a little bit of it like as a teenager, just like with friends and stuff like that. And then like in recent years, I've just been like, no, I'm just gonna go. But it's hard. It can be hard to find people who like hiking. Like hiking is, it can be like if Ireland, we don't get the best weather. So if the weather isn't great, like it's hard to convince people to go out and hike for 4 hours.
Yeah.
So to be honest, it's another reason why I kind of started my page on Instagram, just to kind of connect with other people who like the same things. And it's only really in recent years that I've really been able to hike more, because I don't know if I'd ever really hike too much by myself.
Mhm.
And in the last 2 years, just purely through Instagram, I've joined like social hiking groups and just met people who love it just as much as I do. And it's just been one of the best things for me. Because it sounds really cringy, but there's just something about being on the mountains that's just so freeing. It's so good for your mental health. Like literally as we were driving up to the mountains today, I literally just saw the mountains and I just immediately just felt a bit more like just calm and just
Mm.
excited. So yeah, I guess like I honestly I didn't do a whole lot of it when I was younger. It's mainly in recent years. But I absolutely love it. Like I hike, I'd say once a week now, and it's like this thrill that you get like when you're hiking, and then it's like you're on a high.
Mm.
And it doesn't even have to be the most amazing view for me anyway. It can literally just be doing the sugar loaf, and which doesn't take that long, and it's something so kind of free about it. And I always say like the chats that you have with people when you're hiking are just they're just next level. Like I don't know what it is. I don't know whether it just makes people open up a bit more being outdoors, or whether it's just because they know it's like a kind of safe community, or whether we're all kind of very like-minded. But like I've met people on social hikes and I would know their whole life story after the 2 hours, or I chat to them about stuff that I've never really opened up to about to some of my other friends. Like it's, I don't know, there's something just very kind of wholesome about it and just really grounding about it, which I love.
I wonder, Ali, is it that idea? Because, we kind of, it's, I knock Instagram for and Instagram, social media, for a lot of things. But when I see groups, hiking groups that have got together, or cold water, people going to do that, getting the groups together and stuff like that. And it's interesting you point out about like the conversations you have with these people who you mightn't know as long as you know other people. But even the way you've spoken about like driving up to the mountain, and all of a sudden you've something lifts, and I wonder, with that, and also the serotonin, or the boost that you get from walking in general, like allows that kind of conversation to more like open and become more freeing. I find it with the lads I train with in jiu-jitsu, and it's something that it's quite out there and stuff, and I talked about the benefits of it as well. But like, I talked to those lads like they were like my, family. And very quickly, obviously I'm there, well, a few years now, but like very quickly that kind of opened up. And I do wonder if it is that kind of thing of, obviously we are drawn to people with similar, interests, but there is that factor of, you're getting that hit of dopamine or, whatever it is. And these conversations open up, and obviously if that's happening, you want to go again and you want to go again. And I think that's brilliant. And that's
Mhm.
going back to that idea of, you know, traveling in groups or, doing things in groups with people who have similar interests. That's a kind of really nice way of getting to know other people, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think like it's about your environment as well. Like, if
Mhm.
you're around people that you feel comfortable with that automatically kind of give off a vibe that you feel safe around or have a similar interest, I think you naturally do open up a little bit more. And yeah, as you say, it's probably just like being in the outdoors and just being with people who are similar mindset. But there's something so comforting about it as well because yeah, no, it's lovely. It really is.
Yeah, and you also mentioned, and I like where kind of this is going, because you've meditation, you've mentioned,
Mhm.
you're also really into yoga as well. So what I take from this stuff is that you do, and this is kind of important, and even people my age don't really think this way, but to put the mind first. Obviously, yoga and hiking are part of physical activity as well, but putting the mind first through meditation and yoga, it's clearly something that you actually consciously think about.
Yeah, definitely. Like I'm hugely into it. I remember like starting years ago, like when I was in secondary school, trying to meditate. And it's hard because I think it's definitely getting better now. And I know in schools they started to introduce it. Like I'm thinking about being a primary school teacher, so I've done a few like subbing days in schools and stuff, and I know it's been introduced, which is amazing. But I've always kind of had an interest in it since I was in secondary school. I don't know what kind of drew me to it. I just love the idea of just basically just being with your mind for a few minutes because I
Mhm.
think life is just so chaotic. Like life is just so fast paced. And I remember doing my first yoga class with my sister, and like we just couldn't stop laughing the whole time because we were like, this is so cringy. And like
Yeah.
I remember like she told us to do like an angry cat or something, and my little sister just honestly just couldn't control the laughing for the rest of the class. But I remember just feeling so good after it. And then I started to do like a lot of like YouTube classes as well. Um, and there's just something about being able to connect with your body as well. Like it just really grounds me. Um, and since then I've done like a few mindfulness courses as well. It's something that I've always been interested in, and yeah, I just think everyone could benefit from it. But I know it's not easy like to meditate. It's definitely not. And I think a lot of people have the kind of misconception that meditating is stopping your thoughts, but it's not. Like people think that to meditate is you sitting there for 15 minutes, half an hour, and just not thinking. But
Yeah.
if that's not it, it's such, and like obviously, no, who could do that? Like it's so hard. But I think just kind of just trying to introduce it in the best way they can. Even like friends often say, like, I can't meditate for 30 minutes. I don't know how you do. But like I never started off meditating for 30 minutes a
Mhm.
day or 40 minutes a day. Like I started off doing like I remember sometimes I would do like a lunchtime meditation when during work, and I would just go off for like when I could come home for lunch and just do 10 minutes kind of like one, and they were always just off YouTube. They were never like
Mm.
me like paying for apps and stuff like that because I was a student really. But yeah, no, there's honestly just it's just so beneficial. I think everyone could benefit from it, but I think it's just kind of about making small little changes at the start. And then yoga for me is just so powerful. Like I
Mhm.
think there's another misconception with yoga as well. I think when people think yoga, they think being flexible and doing all these
Yeah.
mad poses and like doing like headstands and everything like that. But for me, it's not that. Like it's for me, it's being able to connect like my mind to my body and just being able to like slow down and just connect my breath as
Mhm.
well to my body and just coming back into the present moment. Like there's like I remember so vividly, like I was going through a really kind of just bad, kind of, I was just really low. And I remember so anxious. And I remember just turning on like a YouTube video for like, and I remember just doing yoga for like I'd say literally about an hour and a half. And it wasn't really intense yoga, it was just
Mhm.
connecting my mind back to my body. And since that day, that was God during COVID, and I haven't like I've nearly done yoga every day since. Just because again, like my goal with yoga isn't to be super flexible. It's just to connect my mind to my body. There's just something so powerful about it.
There really is, and like that's good for people to know, because there is apps for meditation, and there is YouTube channels for yoga, and they are available. And when we've talked about traveling, hiking, yoga, meditation, all and things that are positive for you, for your mind. And I think it's important that people take away something from these kind of things and try it. I've tried this, Ali, a lot. Well, not every episode has worked, but I've tried it with a lot of episodes to take something from the episode. So I tried to do like, now to be fair, I've done yoga before, so that wasn't kind of one that I did a few years ago, and I really enjoyed it. But I tried breath work, and I've tried like cold water swimming, and I've tried a bit of meditation. And funny, you were laughing about the idea that people think you just empty your mind. That's what I thought. And then that's why I thought there's no way I can do it. Now, could I say I've got kind of good at it? I don't know if you can get good at meditation, but that's the wrong way of putting it. But I think if I try it, my friend it was, I think, or somebody they had on said to me, if something comes into your mind, allow it. It's not like if you start trying to push it away, it becomes a bigger issue and you get knocked off your stride. Like, I like the idea of, if I am, like you said, you're feeling a bit frazzled, you're anxious and stuff, and you were able to kind of do yoga, or, some people might be able to do meditation. It's all about trying to concentrate on the things that you like. It's not like shoehorning things into your life that are not going to work. It's like someone who doesn't like traveling, and all of a sudden they're like, well, traveling sounds great, I'm going to book tickets to here, and that's not going to work. And it's about, like, you've clearly, and I'm sure there's many things that you've tried that didn't work for you, but you've seen, at the moment, you've seemed to find the perfect kind of match of things that can benefit your mental health, I suppose.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think like something you said there about like meditation as well. It's like I remember during one of my mindfulness sessions, it was so when your mind wanders, instead of sitting there being like, oh, you're wandering again, or you're failing at this, like you're awful at meditation, like instead of saying like you've like gone off topic like 1,000 times, say to yourself, I've come back 1,000 times. So even recognizing itself that like you're meditating or you're trying is enough in itself. But I think you're so right. Like, I think it's just about finding something that you love to do. Like, as you say, like meditation isn't for everyone. I'm so aware of that. And like yoga isn't for everyone, hiking isn't for everyone. But I think it's just about like finding something that you love to do and just incorporating that into your daily life. Like if it's running, if it's reading, if it's listening to podcasts, it's just about because life is so like not to be really deep around it, but life is so short. So it's just about finding things that bring you your daily kind of dose of happiness, I guess. And yeah, I guess that for me, I'm lucky that I know what kind of that is for me now. But I guess it's just if you don't know what it is yet, just like I remember actually listening to a podcast. I think it was Shane actually just talking about if you like think back to your childhood and think back about what you love to do in your childhood, it often can be relatable to yourself as an adult as well. It's kind of connecting to your inner child. So like if you love like playing with like a small kitchen when you were a baby or whatever, like maybe it's baking that you love to do.
Yeah.
I think it's just just finding what you like to do and just kind of incorporating it into your life as much as you can, because work and everything can just kind of take over. And as I said, life is so short.
That's very true. Also, I'm going to ask you a couple of questions here, and they're kind of like questions, Archer, which for a podcast of this stature, I'd expect something better, but I'm going to ask them regardless, if that's all right with you, Ali. So,
okay.
Favorite place that you have traveled to? That's a tough question.
Oh, it's so hard, Eric.
Yeah.
Uh, I loved Uganda. Uganda was just.
When you said Uganda, because did you go there to work? It was a charity work, or what was the situation?
No, that trip was just like an organized trip.
Just
By
to
two
Uganda.
Irish girls. Yeah, just to go.
Yeah, it's
So
good.
it was insane. We trekked with the chimpanzees, we trekked with the gorillas, we did a safari. The local people there they were just a vibe in themselves. Like it was just, they were so fab. I loved Uganda. I also loved Colombia as well. It's so hard to pick. That's a very hard question now.
That is a hard question. And I thought it was funny actually about one of your Instagram posts about Colombia, that you went during the kind of rainy season. and
Mhm.
you were getting kind of not that it. I'm sure it didn't affect your stay, but it's like that's what I like about your page as well. Like when you talk about it, there's a bit of humor to it as well. That like don't go during the rainy season. But I'm sure when you went there, it didn't really matter to you that it was raining.
No, so I went to, I think Colombia, Costa Rica was definitely rainy season, and like I was there with my
All right,
twin,
yeah.
and like that, it was just it was raining. Like there was times where we were like, oh my God, why do we come during this season? But again, I think it's just about making the most with it. Like, I think it was one of those situations where it's like if we didn't laugh, we were gonna cry because. So I think yeah,
Yeah,
but
and it doesn't really matter as much if you're in Costa Rica than it would if you were, in Kerry. You know what I mean? Like that, and like I say,
yeah.
Kerry's gorgeous, but it's
Mhm.
not quite the same when you're away in somewhere like Costa Rica. But where or what destinations are kind of in your wish list? The next ones down.
I'd love to explore more of Africa. So I love Africa. Like I've explored a good bit of it now. But there's something about Africa. It's just next level. Like
Mm,
it's so different to anywhere I've ever been before. And just the people there are just so lovely. They're so welcoming to tourists. There's just, as I said, like I've been to Africa a few times, and every time I go, it's so eye-opening because it just really makes you appreciate like what we have at home,
hmm
and how lucky we are as well. Like I've been to, like I was in Malawi before, and it's like still one of the poorest countries in the world, but like they were just so happy with what they had. Like
mm,
they've so little things, but they were just always smiling, always happy. Now I know, they're not always happy, and I know
yeah.
they have a very tough life, but it was just so eye-opening to think that, like, of course there's days where you can be upset about something over in Ireland, but there's some days when I have those days where I'm upset about something. I'm not going to say stupid because I don't like to say stupid, because
hmm
if someone's upset about something, I don't like to invalidate that. But like for myself, sometimes if I'm upset about like something very minor, I kind of just bring myself back to moments like when I've been traveling, I'd say in El Salvador or in Malawi, where I'm like, okay, Ali, it's not that bad. Like it's okay. So I think Africa is definitely huge on the bucket list. I'd love to go to Japan as well. I don't
Yeah.
know why. I just have this huge urge to go there. And definitely more South America too.
It looks Japan looks unreal. I like every time I see it in a
Yeah.
film or on a documentary or something like that. I'm kind of like, God, that looks like an amazing place, and the people are apparently amazing too. And my mom always
Mhm.
brings up the fact that the respect they have for the elderly over there, which is something that we can all learn from. Uh, but what, yeah, like I like the fact that it's very easy to go to places where like Miami, like I mentioned, or Spain or France, but to go to places where um I suppose we all don't think of going, like, that's when you said Uganda. Like my immediate blinkered idea was that it was like for charity or something, and it wasn't. It was clearly something there, some place that you wanted to go, and across obviously some places across Africa where you've been, and that's where you see like, and I don't want to sound too cringy or cheesy or like, but that's where you see the other side of life and how people, like, we have all these things around. I know it's an easy thing to say, but we have all these things around, and we're still searching for things and things and things. And then,
Yeah.
like you mentioned about people in Uganda, they have very little, but they make do with what they have, and they smile and they welcome tourists and all that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
It's just I guess that's all the stuff that you learn from traveling all these places, like the humility of people.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's like huge for me when I travel. Like I like, now I know there's always a language barrier there, but like I like to get to know like their lifestyle, and like that's why I like to go into places that aren't really as well known, because I
Mhm.
get to like experience that. And like I love, like whenever we're in Costa Rica, we went to visit like a local tribe there, and I thought that was just so interesting because they completely live a different life. Like they literally still barely wear like clothes, and they use like leaves and stuff as clothes, and just completely different to Irish culture. And I just think it's so, like, the world is just such a big place, and as much as I love Ireland, like we are a small country, so I just think it's so nice to get out and just see how other people live. And you come back with a different perspective. Like every trip that I go on, whether it's literally to like Lithuania or somewhere that's not too far away from us, I always learn something, or I always find it interesting. Like I'm always really curious about how people do things in other countries, whether it's literally like transport or how they like how their working schedule goes, or I'm just always really curious. And I think it just does, you come back with a different perspective.
Yeah.
It's just, yeah, it's really like, I don't know, it's just rewarding or something.
For sure, for sure. I always ask this question, and we've probably covered a lot of this, but what do you like to do in your spare time?
Oh
Do you
God,
ever
what do I
sit
really
down?
like?
Like, do you know what I mean? Do you ever sit down and just not meditate, but just relax?
No.
No.
Very, no, not really. Like every time I'm going, like my sisters will be like, "What are you doing tomorrow?" And I'm like, they're like, "Please don't tell me you're going hiking." But I'm like, "Yeah, but that's my happiness.
Yeah.
Like that's what I like to do. Like I love getting up at 5 a.m. Um, I used to, I used to nap a lot, but no, I'm always, to be honest, I'm always on the go, and it's something that I'm trying to work on because I think sometimes it's my downfall as well. I keep going and going and going, and then burn out. But I also do, I love sea swimming as well. Like I
Yeah.
grew up beside the sea. My dad was a massive sea swimmer, so that's something I love to do as well. Um,
Sweet.
yeah,
Yeah.
there, I think, yeah.
It's funny because like on this question is almost redundant these days. People are so busy that,
Yeah.
now, in saying it, we did cover a lot of your stuff that, hiking and yoga and meditation, part of it, like that you figure into your life too. But Ali, very importantly, where can people find you? Where's your blog and your Instagram tag? And is that what it's called? A tag? No, it's not.
Yeah, tag, isn't it?
It is a tag,
Yeah,
yeah.
tag. Yeah, there you go. And so it's my passport to happy. So, and then I'm on Instagram, and my blog as well is my passport to happy.com, and my TikTok is the same, my passport to happy on
TikTok.
TikTok. So
Forgot about
yeah,
TikTok.
TikTok.
Is
Yeah,
TikTok
TikTok's a bit of a weird one. Like TikTok is just, I just find TikTok funny, but TikTok's a bit of a weird. There's a
yeah.
lot of negativity on TikTok. I try to stay away from it a lot, to be honest.
Yeah, someone said to me that, like, the podcast should go on TikTok and stuff. I have nothing to
Yeah.
offer TikTok. I have nothing to offer it. I'll stick to the places that we already are. But go follow Ali. Ali, stick with me for 2 minutes. I'll just close it out. And then we will take a photo to add to the archives. Archives. I heard a guy call it archives before, and I thought that's not right. So it's
No.
archives. And then we will go on our way. All right.
Class, yeah, no bother.
Thank you, Ali. All right.
Thanks so much.
No worries. I also want to say thank you very much to John for his tech support. I always thank my family, my mum and dad, granddad, Jerry and Calvin. Go subscribe to our YouTube channel if you wouldn't mind. I always forget, these are the bits I'm always told to fill in, and I always forget. But like Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, obviously follow us on there. Apparently, if you go to Apple, you can like leave a rating. You don't have to leave a 5-star. People always say that on podcasts, leave a 5-star. Now, maybe I think it's 4-star podcast. Leave 4 stars. We're on Spotify, Anchor, Google Podcasts, etc. Thanks to everyone for tuning in, and most importantly, on her day off, Ali, thank you so much for giving us your time.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, and I enjoyed that.
No worries, and everybody else, we will see you all next week. Take care. Bye.